I thought she put down father. If Father Amelia and Kate.
Well, because she sent it to me.
My name's Monty.
Yes, we know that, but she sent it to me.
I want Audrey to know it's my Monty. I'm not Father. I'm not
Father.
Peck. It's his nickname. Peck's bad boy. Well, that's what Dad always referred to him as. My father always referred to him as Peck. And he always got a kick out of it, but he was always Mom always said, so Dad said he was always a dresser. You know, he used to dress impeccably, could always, hardly ever wore the same attire to school. So what are you going to start with, kid?
I'm just gonna
You're the director, producer.
Unfortunately, I am. Unfortunately, I'm in charge of this. So you are left with my unorganization.
Or did you want to tell them a little bit about like what you were editing?
Sure. So, sort of my passion project for the last 4 to 5 years, I have been gathering information about Edmund for this documentary in particular, and sort of portraying the journey that it has taken to find information on him, as it has been so hard out of Kansas City because there's just not that much documented. Yeah, it's crazy. So I have documents of his entry into the war. I have sort of where he was, a good idea of where he was, because he was somewhat elusive. So I'm really here to not only get to know his family, but to try to get to know him better.
Jacket up on top, and that's a 2010 ROTC jacket. And so look at the difference in the size of, you know.
So I'm just gonna go down this list if that's okay with you. And I'm doing like personal documentary and how you evoke emotion from audiences that aren't connected with your story at all. So what records did you have of Edmund before I contacted you?
I had nothing except a yearbook. I had a yearbook with a picture, and when your mom called, I think your mom made the initial contact. And when your mom called, of course, that was immediate, the first thing I do, because when I get a phone call, that's what I do. And it's like, lo and behold, he's there. But when I started checking our records, our documentation, we had no record of Edmund beyond the fact that this is what he was interested in high school, and there was no mention. And so what I do, because our yearbooks during the war years are so limited, that's when I went to the World War II and started looking for him. But then by then you were bringing me what you had found. So literally, I didn't even know he was buried in Mount Washington until you brought that.
Based on Edmund and his yearbook, he seemed to be, quite the socialite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think based on that source alone that you had, gave me a lot of what I didn't have, which was his personal life. So I have the documents, and I have sort of his track entering into the war, but I don't have a lot of the before.
The social,
the personal.
One of the things is when I look at our World War II books, yearbooks, and our newspapers, you don't see a lot of the war mentioned. One of my questions is what was school like the day after Pearl Harbor? And it was because they didn't want that yearbook 50 years from now be a reminder of your brother who died. That they wanted that book to have the spirit of what was going in their lives. But They were still just high school students.
It's difficult because based on where his group was documented during the war, in his fighter squadron, I have a rough idea of what they did, but then he did switch around, so he entered through Canada.
Right.
Before America entered the war, which is its own mystery, but he's in about half the pictures. He's sort of not accounted for all the time. So was he messing around? Of course he wasn't. And he might have left for a while, been transferred.
And see, that's half the fun of speculating.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll help with the research, and then you get the trip to France.
I know, but I think, well, we were talking about that,
Thank
like,
you for sending me the postcard while you were
so
there.
so when I got the message from your mom, and I like, I think it was before I even responded to your mom, I think I texted you, and then you didn't respond fast enough, which really was probably like 5 minutes. It was probably not even that long. Then I called you, and I was like, I got like this, like, I don't know how I said it, but like, I got this like weird message, and I was telling Kate about it, and I was like, what do I do about it? And Kate's like, reply back.
Why are you waiting?
And I was like, I'm going to, like, but it was funny, like, that was like, I think that was like one of the first things you said was like, who is it that I did like all this work? And then they message you.
Un article du journal qui est paru cette semaine.
It's their weekly newspaper, and there was an article in it, so she brought it for you.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Voilà, donc
Nice to see you.
it's for you. Offrir aussi à Audrey, puis à monsieur mon frère, parce que
She made a little photo album of what happened
voilà,
in
c'était un super
2016 of when
souvenir.
you
Quoi,
came.
donc,
Merci beaucoup.
voilà.
Les photos
De 2016.
Ah oui, c'est les photos que j'ai déjà vues.
Voilà, de Audrey et sa maman quand ils sont venus en 2016.
Ah, oui. Alors,
puis,
Audrey, elle est là aujourd'hui, non?
Elle est là, Audrey.
Audrey, elle est là.
Voilà.
Alors,
Oh, elle a pas trop. Elle a pas
non.
alors Paul,
Non, attention.
on connaît plus Audrey maintenant.
Oui.
Donc vous allez voir, vous allez vous reconnaître
Oui,
aussi.
Ah,
Hein.
bah oui, bah, évidemment.
Voilà,
Ah, ouais,
Saint-Martin en Sponville.
Non, c'était un beau souvenir, hein. Merci. Hein. Ah oui, très
Voilà.
bien. Oui, j'ai changé de tenue. Hein. Je l'ai plus celle-là.
He doesn't have the same outfit.
Oh, oui.
J'ai repris la terre de France. C'est bien, ça dit que c'est un beau
Voilà.
souvenir, ça. Oh.
Voilà, c'est votre souvenir à vous.
Merci. Merci beaucoup. Vous dites, je crois que j'ai eu un bon Dieu pour moi. Bon, enfin, c'est la vie qui est comme ça.
So we all have a fate, a destiny, and I guess God's pretty good to me for now. So.
Yeah, and so he turned 99 yesterday.
Ah oui, c'était hier. Hier, ils sont allés au cimetière. Il a eu 80. Il aurait eu 99 ans hier.
And the worst thing I really don't like about Edmund is I never got to meet the guy. Really, because I've never heard a bad word about him. Never. And that's just, I mean, from you and from what the kids have found out, and my mom and dad, I never heard a bad word from anybody. And he, I don't know. You know, I never knew the guy, but I miss him. And he would have been a good guy to have grown up.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It isn't, you know, it's not a super well documented family.
Was there anything specific that sort of sparked a new or different understanding?
You have an idea what to expect. And I told them this, like I knew, because my dad had said like, because I told him I was like, I'm probably going to read whatever, you know, I write to leave for him. And my dad's like, you can read what I wrote too. And I had a feeling that I was probably going to cry when I read that stuff. Like, I was like, even if I read what my dad wrote ahead of time to kind of prepare myself for that. And I obviously knew what I wrote, but I was like, okay, yeah, I'm probably going to cry. I don't know how to describe like the connection, but he was just a more real, tangible person. He wasn't just a person I heard stories about. He was real, and he was, you know, right there in front of me.
Even in death, there was something about his act of courage that spoke to those people. And maybe that's all we ever get of his lasting, you know, maybe that's all we ever get. But on the other hand, what an awesome gift that is to you, to the community. I just think what an awesome gift, what an awesome legacy. And that's what kind of life is all about, is the legacy that you leave behind. And those human fallacies are the things that we can't always heal.